and welcome to Council Catch-Up. I'm your host, Derek Westby, and we're here on WSTO TV, TDS Channel 981 in HD, Spectrum Channel 981 on your Roku, Apple, and Fire TV apps, as well as on your Android and iOS device, as well as on YouTube and Facebook. We're here to talk about the October 22nd, 2024 City Council meeting, and I'm here with Mayor Swadley. Welcome.
Thank you.
So we had the call to order, and then we had a public hearing on the STI development. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. Stoughton Trailers Incorporated has been working on their corporate headquarters site for several months now, and we're at the point where we're ready to approve the mapping. We have a certified survey map, we have zoning of the lots, and then really the platting, which really determines where the property lines are and exactly what type of buildings will be built around the corporate headquarters.
All right. Then under communications, we had a presentation on the Stoughton Utilities 2025 budget. And if you're curious about that, you can watch the whole meeting. We're going to skip over that because it was quite a bit of information. We're going to move on to new business. Item number 7, MOU for the RDA site.
Yeah, so as you may have heard, we had an agreement with Kurt Brink, which expired several months ago, and we worked with the RDA, and they interviewed 2 potential developers, and they selected a pair to work together, the Alexander Group and Steve Brown Associates, and we wanted to enter into a memorandum of agreement for them for 6 months to do their due diligence. The hope is at the end of 6 months that they'll commit to entering into a development agreement and do the multi-unit apartments down on the riverfront.
All right. The next item on the agenda was a review of the proposed changes to the MR zoning in Chapter 78.
So Director Muntz Pritchard has been working on updating our zoning codes and really trying to make it more clear, more user-friendly, have things like permitted uses and conditional uses outlined in a way where the average person could go into our zoning code and find that and understand what is permitted and what needs to be permitted with potential conditions attached, and really just trying to streamline the review process of our ordinances.
All right. The next 2 items were related to the STI development, which you already talked about. And then we had an ordinance change relating to paving of access aprons and installation.
Yeah, this is just kind of a first reading to do some cleanup work on when we're doing street and sidewalk projects.
All right. And then as you told me before we recorded this, you skipped the presentation of the budget. That will be at the next council meeting. Is there anything you want to talk about regarding the 2 last items that were indicated that they could go into closed session, but there was quite a bit of discussion before that happened?
Yeah, so we heard from Forward Development Group. They're the ones that have done the development out by Walmart. And several years ago, we came to an agreement to extend Oak Opening Drive all the way down to Highway 138. We had to negotiate an agreement with the Department of Transportation. And as part of that agreement, there was also a need to reposition a driveway from a farmhouse that's out on 138. Currently, that farmhouse, the driveway accesses from Highway 138, and we need to reroute that to Oak Opening once that road is extended. Forward Development Group has expressed interest in further developing the lots there, and we have 8 lots that we had put a deed restriction on, which meant they couldn't pull a building permit until that extension for Oak Opening was completed. And then the plan would be is to extend that road all the way out to 138 and have an intersection there at some point. Probably wouldn't be for a few years. We'd have to get it designed and engineered. And then with highway construction on 51 in 2026, that's going to be a detour. So really the conversation was what sort of a surety would the city council feel comfortable in order to lift those deed restrictions on them lots. They would like to build the lots sooner than later, and at the same time begin to extend that road down to Oak Opening. Ultimately, it would be the city's responsibility to make that connection. So really the conversation is what do we want to have in place in order for them to move forward? And I would anticipate having, further conversations on that issue.
All right. And what about the J.T. Klein TIF request?
So J.T. Klein is going through their due diligence process out on 51 West on the west side near Rutland Dunn Town Line Road. And there's two separate lots there. So as part of their due diligence, they've requested tax incremental financing assistance. And what they want to do out there is do one building would be 62 and older would be able to live there, and then there would be a total of potentially 3 buildings, and they would all be what we would call workforce housing. So that means that their rent would be based on income levels instead of a market rate, which is based on whatever the market is. And the subsidies are help paid for through tax credits and incentives that are out there. And there's usually when you do these affordable housing projects, there's a financial gap that's created because the property assessment, which creates the tax increment, is based on rental income, and the rental income on a subsidized property is far less than it would be on a market rate. So that creates this gap. They use TIF money oftentimes to help fill that gap. So really the conversation is to give the city council an update or where we are in that process. And there again, we expect further conversations on that topic.
All right. That's all we had for the October 22nd, 2024 City Council meeting. We'll see you next time right here on Council Catch Up.